Hey, what's up, y'all niggas, man? It's your friendly neighborhood comedian Devin Wells, and I just got back from partying with Dracula, and now I got a slight taste for blood. But anyway, we got another reaction for y'all. It's the George Lopez and Ralph Barbosa beef. Now, I knew they had beef, but I never knew what it was about. And I'm a big fan of George Lopez. I think George Lopez is funny as hell. Ralph Barbosa, I'm not super familiar with him, but I've seen some clips of him that were decently funny, you know. So, yeah, let's get right into this shit.
Before Joe Rogan had the entire LA comedy scene on check, making sure that everyone was nice and supportive of each other, the comedy world, the stand-up comedy world was dark and ruthless. If you think about it, Carlos Mencia was really the last person to take advantage of this old school mentality or a way of doing business, and he paid dearly. Now that Joe Rogan is gone, everyone is starting to trash each other openly, and even the so-called famous OGs like George Lopez are going after smaller and younger comics.
You know, there's this kid blowing up right now, this Ralph Barbosa. Kid's blowing up.
Yeah, like I said in a past video, there's an epidemic of like older comedians just coming at us, like just coming. And I got a video release that's gonna come out soon. It might be out today. I don't know, but yeah, I definitely got it might be out on the same day that this video comes out, but I got a video about that shit.
And I'm like, I'm praying for him.
Who is that?
Because I'm like, this kid needs a pass. I want this kid to get the pass. I want that kid to have it easy.
I'm going to tell you this.
Because we've had it hard. You harder than me.
You said that kid is blowing up. I don't know who he is. Where's he from?
He's from Dallas, Texas. Young kid, very, very young. Just did the Tonight Show. Did one of those Latino HBO specials. The kid's selling out everywhere he goes now. And I think to myself,
Well, where's he going, though? You can't say everywhere he goes.
kid's going to Wisconsin.
Well, to comedy clubs, though?
Yeah, comedy club in Milwaukee. He's doing great.
Yeah.
And I'm rooting for him.
If you're not familiar with Ralph Barbosa, he is a 26-year-old comic from Texas who recently started blowing up on social media. Great stand-up comic, and recently was on the Jimmy Fallon show, which is insane. And unlike George Lopez, he doesn't need to lean into the Mexican shtick to get laughs. Again, he's been killing it, and a lot of his bits online on YouTube get millions and millions of views, which brings me to my next point. There's no way that George Lopez did not know who Ralph Barbosa was.
Longer, getting funnier.
I will say something about you. First of all, I don't think you should be worried about anybody else, especially and Jeremy Barbosa. Come on, Jeremy Barbasol. That's his name. I don't know who he is. I don't mean any disrespect, but I don't know who he is.
But it is up to us to you know, the Ralph Barbosas of the world. For you,
But nobody knows who he is. What are you saying his name, man?
look, I think he's great, and I'm doing it
wrong to say, Aaron?
I'm doing it.
And I don't mean it mean. I'm saying.
The man on the payroll.
No,
hey,
but
whatever you say,
I mean,
George.
but you look out for yourself. That's what we look out for yourself. You know,
you putting me on this show helps me.
But also, if you don't deliver, I can't help you.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, that's the type of shit I'm talking about with these older comedians. It's like, yeah, nobody knows who you are. Why is he trying to help him? Dog, that kid is grinding. He's grinding. He's really doing this shit. He is putting his all into this stand-up shit, and you talking about, nah, don't help him and shit like that. Like, damn, don't help him. Don't mention his name. Don't do this. It's like, bro, what is really the issue? There's definitely a deeper issue here. Because it's not about us being lazy. It's not about us not putting in the work, because we are. What do y'all have against new comedians? Like older comedians or just older people in general? There has to be a deeper issue. And I need y'all to just come out and say it. Like, damn.
Of course.
Like, if you can deliver.
Do the work. I don't help those that don't help themselves.
Now, something we need to point out is that Ralph is already at a point in his career that a mention from George Lopez on a podcast was not going to help at all. The George Lopez podcast got about 65,000 views, and the Ralph Barbosa Flagrant episode has over 1.7 million views, which is crazy. Now, to be fair, he wasn't in the entire podcast, but he is still on the thumbnail and the title. So it's not a situation where George Lopez did any real damage, but instead is a perfect example of the old school crab mentality of back in the day. And listen, who cares if somebody thinks the way he does? In fact, if somebody does do everything alone, then good for them, but that's rarely the case. And that's that wasn't the case with George Lopez. I won't get into his personal stuff with his ex-wife and stuff. You can look that up. But he even says it himself that Sandra Bullock was the one who discovered him and gave him a spot in her movie.
Why are you stirring up so much?
Yeah, I heard about his wife thing. I heard she like donated him a kidney or something, and then he cheated on her, and then they divorced or something like that. I don't know, but that's not relevant to the conversation.
With the OGs, man.
La Raza, why are you doing that, dude?
Yeah. Pocos pero locos, güey.
There's this like, oh my God, thing like a Mexican's worst enemy is another Mexican.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, and it's true. I don't like these Mexicans.
Wait a minute. Okay, listen, obviously there's this beef everybody's going around. I don't even know if it's beef.
I don't think so.
Nah, this shit's
I thought it was fine. Started being on the road, and so every now and then somebody would be like, "You're the next George Lopez." Even before this George Lopez thing, my response was already like, "You're George Lopez."
Oh, really?
Whenever somebody would yell that from the audience, or any Latino comedian they'd throw out, whoever their idols were, I was like, I wasn't really like coming for them. It's just that when they would name them, I'm like, I don't know, like.
Sometimes it's a funny thing to say on stage.
Yeah, it's a funny thing.
Yeah.
I just think it's funny that they're just like assuming I like looked up to George Lopez.
That's the thing I wanted to ask you when you came up, because you're 26.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I wasn't watching.
I don't think you ever grew up watching them.
Even when I was watching them, I was like, I don't get it.
Oh, come on. Nah, that is hilarious.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, George Lopez is funny as hell. I'm sorry.
It was good. That was good hate. You got to give it up for good hate.
Barbosa is 26 years old, which is a little bit older than me, but I did grow up watching George Lopez. Obviously, it was way after his comedy specials had aired, but overall, I thought he was really funny and could relate to some
I
of the
watched
stuff
George
that he would
Lopez.
talk
I think
about.
he's
Not
I think that
everything,
nigga's funny as
obviously,
hell.
but now looking back, he's also a great performer. Personally, or as a person, I don't think I'd be too excited to meet him, but overall, he does need some respect.
And he's like nice. I'm telling you, the dude called me after that whole thing he said where he like I wasn't mad when he said it.
Yeah.
Cause like I'm telling you, like I have like a whole lot of respect for him still. I'm not when he said it, I'm not like, what the like hurt about it, but I also wasn't like, whoa, yeah, who cares? It just was like it's a fucking podcast. You're talking shit. Like,
Yeah.
So what if he said it? You know what I mean? Like he doesn't know me, so like it's his.
He knows you, my boy.
But it's his podcast. Like
You don't say I don't know somebody 5 times unless you know.
Yeah, let you know. But yeah, he called me, and he was like super cool. I was kind of like starstruck by it, to be honest, because I wasn't expecting it. But,
How did he call it? Was he like
Fuck out of here.
no.
No, but also Andrew Schultz, I got a bone to pick with that motherfucker. I don't know if y'all know about what's going on with him, but he like was talking shit about like black women and shit. And I could make a video about that, but shit, I don't know how long it's gonna take for me to make that motherfucker. Y'all know it takes me a long time to make like original videos.
Tell me about the call. What
he
happened?
was just like, he's like, hey, Ralph, this is George, man, George Lopez.
But
I was like, I wanted to call and apologize.
I got
And
something
my
to say
first
about
George
that
was
shit,
like,
though.
what? And I was like, my bad, man. I didn't mean to be like rude or nothing. It just like, damn, it kind of caught me off guard, you know, that he's even calling me. And he was just like, yeah, man. He's like, I was kind of like in the heat of the moment where they're just kind of shooting the shit with Trevino and kind of fired up about it. But I didn't mean to like talk badly about you and like that. Like just kind of talking, you know, like, but I apologize. I was like, you didn't have to, man.
So
I
it
was like, I
sounds to
appreciate
me
that
like
a lot.
this
Like,
wasn't
you
even
really
a
didn't
beef
have
at
to.
all.
You know, it's not like bugging me like that. He was like, no. He's like, I did. I had to, whatever. He's like,
That's decent, though, that he didn't do a public apology.
yeah, I wouldn't have. I don't think it had to be public at all. A lot of people online were like, "Hey, fuck, you slander him in public, you apologize in
Yeah,
public."
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
nah, bro. Like, then it would have looked like he's just doing it
Yeah.
For
the
them,
people.
not
yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just like, comic to comic, man to man. He's like, I just want to apologize, man.
Yeah.
He's like, and you got my number. If you ever did need help with anything, you got my number now.
Oh.
Now, George Lopez apologizing is a respectable move, and I don't think he did it out of pressure because he's been in many controversies, way bigger controversies before, and he didn't fold. And I agree that it was better that he did it privately, that he apologized privately. And either way, knowing or seeing now how George Lopez is, there is just no way that he was going to apologize publicly. So that's better than nothing. I also think there was some confusion on their end, or maybe they were just joking, but
Cool. It's that Steve Trevino guy. I'm starting to think he's the bad guy.
It is.
in fact, that Steve Trevino, dude, was the one who was bringing up Ralph in a good way, and George Lopez was the one who started trashing him. But the way they framed it was as if Steve was pushing George to just trash him and hyping him up.
Is a lot of times when people try to relate to a comedian, they talk about other comedians that are funny. And that's the last thing a comedian wants. So he's hearing this nonstop, and now he's on his podcast, another guy's bringing it up, and he's like, yo, what the going on over here? I'm George, let's talk about me.
Maybe. I do know, like, at the beginning of that podcast, they were talking about, so I don't know, they went onto the subject of, like, do you help the younger guys? And George was like, I don't help nobody.
Yeah.
And then
he was probably like a little fired up.
Yeah,
from that previous time.
That's one of the reasons that it didn't bug me, is because he was already like proving the like, I don't help people.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, fuck. I feel like they could have named anybody and he would have been like, yeah, guy.
Yeah.
I don't think it was that personal. I think it was very much like a whoever it could have been. My name is arbitrary.
He might have peeped something with that.
Is that how you use
You
that?
really stumbled on it, dude.
I almost thought that's what your name was. So when you were saying that, I was like, yo, arbitrary.
Now I think they're being way too charitable because George Lopez wasn't doing a bit. He wasn't just trying to make the people around him laugh, because at some points George Lopez even says that he only helps out people if they can back it up. Otherwise, he can't help you. But if he looks at Ralph Barbosa, he would be the perfect example of somebody to get behind, especially now that he has a huge track record and a big portfolio of successful jokes that he has put out there. So to me, it just sounds like George did know who he was and wanted to play it off and just talk smack. And the thing is, it doesn't even matter, because it's not like they're talking about him on the Joe Rogan podcast and then George doesn't want to bring up competition, which isn't even competition. The dude is like 40 years younger than George Lopez. And also, I hate bringing this up, but their channel, All Things Comedy, with over 500,000 subscribers, is not doing so well. Even himself alone, the George Lopez podcast, isn't doing so well. Now, maybe he has a huge audience somewhere else, but I'm not aware of that. At least on YouTube, it's not doing so well.
Yeah, it was. It's always tricky, man. I remember Chappelle was on Rogan, and Rogan is the best. He's always trying to like give everybody a shout out and put everybody on. And he was like, "Yo, he was like, Chappelle, you're doing these great shows outside, or in the barn or whatever." And there's another guy who's doing a lot of great stuff online. This guy Andrew Schultz. He's doing these videos online and turn your phone, and he's writing jokes and there's images. And Chappelle just goes, yeah, I don't know about that slideshow shit. I do stand-up comedy. And it was just like, I remember watching like, oof.
He figured out a new way to do comedy. He figured out a way to do internet, Instagram, 10-minute comedy.
Well, okay, but that's not, like you say, that's not stand-up.
No.
Like,
That would hurt.
Damn, like I was upset. And then I realized that like, it's a probably similar situation where like people around Chappelle thinking they're going to connect with him by going, hey, have you checked this guy out? He's also funny. And he's a comic. He don't want to hear about that shit. He want to hear about how he's funny.
Now, I think it's funny that Andrew is still salty about the Dave Chappelle situation, which was very minor, but I get it. But not too long after Ralph did the podcast, he uploaded a picture with Dave Chappelle on stage, which is insane. Again, the dude is only 26 years old and is completely crushing it to be on stage with Dave Chappelle as a young stand-up comic. That's just
hard.
wild to me. And after
That's one of
seeing
my
how
aspirations.
Conference
I
on
feel
Joe
like,
Rogan,
because I'm
wouldn't be
20 and a half
surprised
right
if
now.
Ralph was on there very soon. And funny enough, it would be the complete opposite of what Lopez did for Ralph.
Yeah, I'm 20 and a half years old right now. By 26, I want to be on stage with some big guns. By 26 years old, I want to have been so successful and so good at what I do that I'm able to share the stage with somebody like Chappelle, or that's dope. That's a goal. That's something to strive for.
At the end of the day, this only benefited Ralph Barbosa because everyone was talking about him and he got to talk about it on people's podcasts. And it might have ruined George Lopez for some young people. Listen, I don't expect them to go out there and help everybody, but to go out of your way to make sure that you don't, that's a bit extreme. And so because of that and other things that I've heard of him, I'm not a huge fan of him as a person, but you got to give him credit where credit is due. And he is a great performer and was pretty funny back then. And also, once again, it proves that if you just apologize, it fixes a lot of things. So Carlos Mencia, if you're watching, come on, man, just apologize. Everyone loves a comeback story. But yeah, good for Ralph that he actually is getting noticed by the biggest names out there. Good for him. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments
that's
below.
dope.
Leave a like, subscribe to the channel to support. Dislike if you didn't like the video. I hope you all are having a great week. But that is all we have for today. See ya.
That's what's up, man. Yeah, I'm glad they was able to squash that and get that. You know, it sounded like it wasn't really much of a beef to begin with. You know, maybe they were baiting for clicks a little bit, but it didn't really sound like a real beef to me. It just sounded like a little misunderstanding. Somebody said something that they didn't exactly mean. So yeah, that was a fantastic video. Link in the description for the original video. But yeah, without further ado, I'll see y'all next time with my next video.